Hi, I am Emma, and when my sister Charlotte pushed me from my wheelchair, she didn't just break my trust, she exposed her secret plot to frame me as unstable to steal my scholarship. The crowd believed her lie, but I had proof, a recorded confession she thought was erased. In 45 minutes, I turned her deception into her downfall. The first bell hadn't even rung when the hallways of Lincoln High in Boise, Idaho were already buzzing in September 2022. Everyone was too excited or too self-involved to notice me rolling through. That's usually how it went. I didn't move with the crowd. I moved through it like a shadow no one saw coming. Kids zipped past me carrying props for the assembly. I kept my hands on the push rims. I didn't say a word. They'd asked me to help fold napkins. Not speak, not present, just fold. They'd called it helping backstage. I called it being sidelined with a smile. I didn't argue, I just folded them tighter. At home that morning, Mom had fussed over Charlotte's hair. Charlotte soaked it up. Of course, that's what she did. She was the rising star, the student council vice president, the older sister who's going places. I had been assigned a short closing line for the assembly, just 3 sentences thanking the volunteers. But that morning, when I checked the script pinned backstage, my part was gone. Gone. Erased like I'd never been in it. Charlotte was standing nearby talking to Mr. Thompson. She whispered to him, "Make sure Emma's speech stays cut. She'll ruin my moment." She didn't look at me, but I saw the edge of a smirk before she turned away. I held the printout a second longer, then folded it and placed it back exactly where I found it. Peacekeeping. That's what I told myself. It wasn't worth the scene, but something in my chest. It didn't settle. Later, as the students gathered by the theater entrance, I was waiting for my cue to wheel over near the faculty row when I felt a shift. Something subtle but sharp. "Try not to mess things up this time," Charlotte murmured as she passed me. She bent down like she was adjusting my footrest, but her hand slid low to the frame behind my wheel, and then with a quick jerk, she pushed. My chair pitched sideways. There was no time to brace. My body tilted hard to the right, and I hit the concrete on my shoulder and hip. Pain flared. So did shame. For a heartbeat, no one said anything. Then came a gasp, then shuffling feet, but no one rushed to help, no one shouted, no one stepped forward. "She fell," Charlotte said loudly, backing away with mock concern. "She does that sometimes. Her arms just give out. That hit harder than the concrete?" The lie, clean and confident, landed like a slap. A few students nodded. No one looked at me. Lying there, I felt something strange. Not just pain, but recognition. Like I'd been here before. And I had. I remembered being 12 in 2017. Charlotte had been in charge of pushing me that day, and she'd laughed. "No one will care if you're gone." She caught up after, said sorry I never told Mom. I didn't want to start drama. Now, here I was. Different day, different excuse, but the same story. The crowd around me shifted again. A teacher jogged over. "Mrs. Larson." Charlotte was already crouched beside me, helping lift me as if she hadn't been the one to send me down. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded once. I didn't trust my voice. She smiled like a good big sister should. I was escorted inside. Someone pushed me this time. No one asked what really happened. No one questioned Charlotte. Later that day, while I sat alone in the resource room, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Hope you're okay. Please don't embarrass your sister today. It's a big day for her." I didn't reply. I couldn't decide which part hurt more, the lie, the fall, or the idea that my job was to stay silent for someone else's comfort. That night, I sat on my bed. I opened my hand, and there it was. The maroon napkin I had folded the night before, crumpled, pressed into my palm from the fall. I smoothed it once, then tossed it in the trash before anyone saw. I wheeled myself to the nurse's office without asking permission. No one stopped me. That's the thing about being invisible. They only see you when they need something, and right then, nobody needed me. The nurse aide didn't ask many questions. She looked at the scrapes on my elbow and quietly began cleaning them. "I'm going to bandage this up, might bruise later, so ice it when you get home." "All right," she said. I nodded. My voice hadn't found its way back yet. From the hallway came the crackle of the intercom. "Attention, students and faculty. Please excuse the interruption. We'd like to congratulate Charlotte Hayes for being selected as a recipient of this year's Compassion and Leadership Award. She's being called to the main office now for her photo." The hallway outside erupted in cheers. My fingers curled into the armrests. Compassion in leadership. My sister shoved me onto the ground and got handed a plaque for it. The aide gave me a soft pat on the shoulder. "You'll be okay, sweetheart. These things happen." But this didn't just happen. It was planned, performed. I didn't respond. Later, after lunch, I rolled into homeroom. Miss Reynolds stood near her desk. I waited until the last student left, then approached her quietly. "Miss Reynolds." My voice cracked. I need to tell you something." She looked up. "Sure, Emma. What's going on?" I hesitated. My mouth was dry, and the words felt heavier than they should have. "I didn't fall this morning. Charlotte pushed me. She pretended to fix my chair, but she made it tip." Her eyes flickered. "Oh well." She looked down, then back up. "I'm sure she didn't mean anything by it. Charlotte would never hurt you. I heard her tell a friend she'd make me look unfit for the scholarship," I said, voice steady. "But she did." Miss Reynolds's voice dropped to a hush. "Maybe you just lost balance. These things can feel blurry. It's a big week for the school and tensions are high. Let's not blow something out of proportion." All right. There it was, a polite way of saying, "Sit back down, don't make trouble." She turned back to her paperwork. I just sat there, staring at her back. Later, I opened my school-issued laptop in the library, drafted an email to the counselor, typed out everything. What happened this morning, what Charlotte had done before, even the deleted line from the ceremony script. I had it all down, every detail, but my thumb hovered over the send button for too long. What if they didn't believe me either? I hit delete. The screen went blank. It was rehearsal time for the award ceremony. I wasn't scheduled to attend, but I went anyway. On stage, Charlotte walked confidently across the platform. A teacher whispered near the sound booth. I wanted to laugh, but it caught somewhere in my throat. She turned, saw me in the corner, and held my gaze for just a second. Then she smiled. They were applauding the version of her they wanted to see, the one who held doors, who led team meetings, who folded her hands perfectly during assemblies, not the girl who knew exactly how hard to push before the world looked away. I rested my hand on the armrest of my chair and tightened my grip. Maybe no one else would remember what happened, but I would, and I started by remembering what she did the last time. It wasn't the fall itself that stuck in my memory. It was the way she smiled after. The same smile I saw again yesterday in that gym. Calm, untouchable. That wasn't new. I was 11 in 2016 when it first happened. The morning we visited the pool at a community center in Meridian, Idaho, I stayed on the side like always. I was just watching when Charlotte appeared behind me. "Come closer," she said. "You can dip your feet." I shook my head. "Oh, come on, don't be such a downer." The next thing I felt was the sudden jolt forward, my chair tipping over the edge, the cold slap of water, my hands flailing before someone finally pulled me out. "She's fine," Charlotte said. No one asked me what happened. That moment didn't just get buried, it got rewritten. Now, more than a decade later, I was back in the role I knew too well. The one who got pushed and then told to smile through it. At lunch, I looked for Lily, but today, she wasn't there. She was sitting near the center with a group from drama club. I wheeled over, quietly, slowly. "Lily?" She looked up. She leaned closer, lowered her voice. "I just can't be in the middle of this." "I'm sorry." I felt my chest thud, but my face didn't show it. "So? This is too much now." "No, it's not that. It's just people are saying you're making it a bigger deal than it is. And Charlotte, she's got that leadership thing going on right now. I just can't get caught up." I nodded once, rolled back, and didn't say a word. The whispers had started. You could feel it in the way people glanced and then looked away. I was no longer just the quiet girl in a chair. I was a subject of conversation, an inconvenience that made others uncomfortable. By fourth period, I passed the hallway bulletin board, the group shot with volunteers. I'd been there. I had folded banners, labeled the boxes, even helped Coach Harris sort cords. But there was the photo, and I wasn't in it, cropped out neatly. I scanned the credits. Thanks to all our amazing helpers, Charlotte Hayes, Ethan, Mia, Lucas, Zoe. No, Emma, I asked Mr. Jensen from the tech team. Hey, do you know if the full group photo got uploaded? He didn't look up. That's all. Yeah, probably just a tech issue, he muttered and walked away. Nothing was corrected. I rolled into the library and I wrote, "This wasn't about a fall. This was about the silence that followed, the comfort people chose over truth, the way they'd rather believe someone like Charlotte, poised, smiling, camera-ready, than confront the idea that someone like her could be cruel. It was about a system built on pretending things didn't happen, about what happens when the ones who are supposed to see choose not to." When I returned to my locker later, Charlotte was walking by with a pack of students trailing behind her. She looked like she belonged in a high school movie. Our eyes met. She didn't even flinch. That was her power. She didn't need to explain or deny. She just had to keep moving forward as if nothing had happened, and let the world fill in the blanks for her. But I wasn't blank. "You're not the only one who remembers things," I whispered. That night after dinner I sat in my room. I reached under my desk and pulled out a dusty box. Inside were old notes, birthday cards, crumpled drawings, things no one else thought mattered. But I had remembered them. "It's time I remembered everything," I whispered, pulling the lid all the way off. But I wasn't the only one holding on to a memory that hurt. That night I stayed up well past midnight. I journaled memory after memory unspooled. Not just Charlotte's acts, but the dismissals that came after. "She didn't mean it," they'd say. Or worse, "You're too sensitive." I wrote down every instance I could remember. Times she pinched me under the table. The day she told our Sunday school teacher I had cheated on a memory verse, even though I hadn't. She'd bragged to her friends, "I'll take her scholarship next." These weren't childhood pranks. They were rehearsals. The next morning I arrived at school early. It wasn't intentional. As I turned the corner past the east stairwell, Mr. Henry Walsh, the school janitor, was crouched down. He looked up when he saw me, nodded once. I gave a small smile, ready to roll past him like usual when he spoke. "I saw what happened," he said. I paused. His voice was low, not uncertain, not questioning, just steady. "That day, near the theater doors, I was emptying trash by the side lot. I saw your sister touch the chair. Then I saw you fall." My hands stiffened on my wheels. I tried to tell myself it wasn't what it looked like. He went on, "But it wasn't the push that convinced me. It was the way you got back in that chair, like it wasn't the first time." He stood up slowly. "No one's ever asked me what I saw. They never do." I looked at him. He wasn't angry. He wasn't pitying. He was just watching. "Why are you telling me now?" I asked. He shrugged. "You looked like someone who finally needed to hear it. That stayed with me all day. After classes I went home, and a little after 7:00 p.m. my phone buzzed. Aunt Ellen. I hesitated, then picked up. "Hey, honey," she said. "Just checking in. Your mom mentioned you had a little tumble." I tried not to sigh. "Yeah, something like that." There was a pause. "She didn't do something again, did she?" I froze. "Wait, what?" Aunt Ellen exhaled on the other end. "I probably shouldn't say anything, but when I visited y'all that summer before your 10th birthday in 2015, Charlotte told your parents I broke your mom's necklace. I didn't. I'd never touch her things. But your mom believed her. I got sent home early. Why would she do that? She always knew how to cry just right, make people feel like they had to take her side. You know what I mean? Yes, God, yes, it unraveled more than just one memory." "Sweetheart," Ellen added. "She's had this in her for a while. Don't let it twist you into knots." But it already had. After we hung up, I sat alone in the dim kitchen. This wasn't about one fall. This wasn't even about Charlotte. This was about power and the way it cloaked itself in charm, about how people didn't want to confront uncomfortable truths if it meant disrupting the stories they liked better. I took out a legal pad from the drawer and started listing names. Caleb Turner, publicly called out for cheating on a quiz, even though the teacher later found the grading error. Olivia Grant, humiliated on stage when her mic was cut halfway through her solo. Sophia Lee, assigned to the alternate debate team. Each one of them had been subtly erased, just like me, and each time the room moved on. I wasn't just a victim, I was sitting inside a system that made room for this. At midnight, I opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then started typing. I created a folder and named it Things They Won't Talk About inside. I opened a fresh doc and titled it The Fall. I wrote every detail, no embellishments, just truth. The way her fingers touched the back of my chair. I didn't send it, but I saved it. And I read it again, once, twice. Then I highlighted one line and bolded it. Sometimes the quiet ones remember best. The school didn't know it yet, but I was done being quiet. As I rolled through the front hallway the next morning, Charlotte's photo was in the center. She was smiling like she always smiled when a camera found her. Back home earlier that morning, I'd stood in the kitchen with my mom. I wanted to speak. I had rehearsed it in my head, how to bring it up without sounding accusatory. Something happened with Charlotte, I finally said. She didn't even look up, just kept stirring, then set the spoon down. Just let it go, honey. Don't make it harder for her. She's been spreading lies to ruin my scholarship chances, I snapped, but Mom just sighed. She said it like Charlotte was the one struggling. By the time I got to school, that ache had folded itself into something colder, something harder to shake. The day dragged. In English class, Lily's name was missing from the group project roster. I asked the teacher what happened. Apparently she requested it. It shouldn't have hurt, but it did. At lunch, I sat alone again. Across the room, Lily laughed at something another girl said. She looked over once, then dropped her gaze to her plate. A boy passed my table and muttered, "She always makes drama." Easy for people to say, easy for them to believe. I stayed in the lunchroom longer than I needed to. There was nowhere else I wanted to go. I picked at the edges of my sandwich. When I stood to take my tray, I noticed something tucked underneath it. A napkin folded once, then again into a shape I recognized. A 4-point pocket fold, the kind I'd made for Charlotte during the festival week setup. My heart stopped. I unfolded it slowly. You were right. I saw it too. She shoved you. R.W. Twist. Someone else had seen. Someone else had known. And they hadn't spoken. Not yet. But they were watching, remembering. I looked around the room. I didn't know who R was. It could be any one of the quiet faces, but I didn't feel entirely alone anymore. I placed the note carefully into my folder. Things They Won't Talk About. It joined the letter I'd written, the photos I'd started collecting, the screenshots. I wasn't trying to build a case. Not yet, but I was building something. In the hallway after lunch, I passed the gym where Charlotte and her friends practiced a skit for the final day of festival week. She didn't glance my way this time. She didn't need to. I stopped in the middle of the hallway, rested one hand on the armrest of my chair, and whispered, "They think I'm too weak. I think they forgot how steel is made." I wasn't planning to speak tomorrow, not with words. After the last bell rang, I wheeled past the janitor's cart and gave Mr. Walsh a quick nod. He knew I was staying behind. I told the staff I was helping decorate the gym for festival week. In truth, I had other plans. I moved slowly down toward the auditorium. I turned the opposite direction toward the tech booth. Inside the control room above the theater stage, I found the recording log, scanned through the timestamps, and selected the file marked Prep Tuesday Drama Club. I hit play. At first, it was just chatter, laughter, voices calling lines. And then Charlotte. Her voice was unmistakable. Smooth. Airy. It's not like anyone will believe her. She's too weak to fight back. Another clip followed. "If Emma's out, I'll get her scholarship. I've already started the rumors." I froze. That was it. There was no question of interpretation, no way to spin it. No edits, no tricks, it was her voice, her words. I downloaded the file, renamed it Evidence 1. Then I closed the laptop carefully. I stayed still for a long moment. The roll back to my locker was slower, but not because I was stalling. I wanted to breathe this part in the moment before the mask slips. Then I saw her, Charlotte. She stood at my locker with her back turned, fumbling with the combination. She didn't expect me to catch her there. When she turned and saw me coming, she jumped slightly, then gave a tight smile. "Oh," she said, holding up my notebook like it was some kind of discovery. "I thought I left my pen in here, from last week." There were no pens in her hand, just the notebook where I kept sketches of napkin folds, annotations about festival week tasks, and the list of dates I'd started logging every time something like this had happened. This time I didn't freeze. I held her gaze. She blinked first. "Thanks," I said evenly, "but I've already backed it all up." Her smile cracked just slightly. Then she set the notebook down and walked away. I didn't call after her, didn't need to. That evening at home, I laid everything out across my bed, laptop open to the audio file, journal beside it, sketchbook, screenshots, a list of names. Mine wasn't the only one. A classmate mocked for her stutter. A boy excluded from a group project because he used a cane. A student who left mid-semester after weeks of isolation. We were different, but the pattern was the same. Charlotte didn't create the system, but she knew how to thrive inside it. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the email icon. I could send it to the principal. I could upload it, blow it wide open, but instead, I waited. Some part of me wanted them to look me in the eye first, to hear the truth while standing just feet away from the girl they tried to erase. There's a difference between knowing something and feeling it. Tomorrow, I wanted them to feel it. I printed out a still from the auditorium video, one frame, Charlotte turning back toward me while I lay on the floor, smirking. Or maybe smiling. I didn't care anymore about the nuance. That image slid into the folder, titled The Fall Files. The microphone had caught her voice. The photo had caught her face. And me? I'd caught the silence they all depended on, and I'd started breaking it. I looked up, then slowly closed the folder. Tomorrow wasn't a plan, it was a reckoning. I whispered, "Tomorrow I won't say much, but I won't need to." They were about to hear what silence sounds like when it stops obeying. That line echoed through my thoughts as I rolled across the school's front entrance. The next morning, Principal Davis stepped up to the podium, and "Before we begin," he said, "one of our students has asked to say a few words. Please listen with the same respect you'd want given to you." I moved slowly forward. I positioned myself center stage in front of a room filled with faces that had once looked past me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I was told. I fell. I began because I'm weak. But I didn't fall. I was pushed. And I have proof. But more than that, I have memory. I have strength. And I know how easy it is to be erased. Especially when you don't fit what people want to see. Charlotte's eyes locked onto mine. I reached into the side pouch of my chair and pulled out a small speaker. I pressed play. Then Charlotte's voice, clear, cutting, undeniable. It's not like anyone will believe her. She's too weak to fight back. Someone stood up. Charlotte tried to step forward, but Ms. Reynolds blocked her path. Not yet. I didn't wait for permission to finish. I closed the speaker, picked up the file. "That's all," I said simply, and then I turned. At the edge of the hallway, just outside the gym doors, Riley caught up with me. "You did it," they whispered. "Not yet," I replied, but the silence cracked. "That's a start." We didn't say anything else. As we passed the front office, I could still hear Principal Davis's voice. "Charlotte," he said, "we need to talk now." And he hadn't muted the microphone yet. The hallway outside the principal's office was too quiet. I sat there, my folder balanced on my lap, enough to keep me from hearing Charlotte's voice through the walls. I wasn't sure if I wanted to. They'd called me down right after the assembly. I knew it wouldn't be over with just one audio clip. And I knew Charlotte better than anyone. If you cut off her spotlight, she'd just change costumes. Inside the office, muffled voices grew sharper. I could make out a few fragments now. Her voice? I don't know what kind of editing software she used, but that audio wasn't real. There it was. She's obsessed. I've tried to be patient, but she's made it impossible. Look at this. This email. She sent this to someone in October 2021, said she'd make me pay one day. I could picture it without needing to see it. Clever. Cold. Principal Davis's voice came next. We take this seriously, Charlotte. Very seriously. But it's fake. Anyone can generate audio these days with a few clicks, you know that. She sounded, and she hates me. She's always hated me. That's not a crime. There was a pause, then footsteps. The door opened. Emma, he said, please come in. I wheeled into the room slowly. Charlotte sat across from him. I understand you have more material to submit, Principal Davis said. I nodded once. Yes. I slid the folder across the desk and time-stamped raw audio, security footage from the day before the fall. I never accessed any tech rooms or equipment. It was all captured from hallway mics. He looked through the documents, and I added, I didn't send that email. She didn't flinch. Davis studied the printed footage, then set it aside. Still the question remains. Who corroborates your story, Riley? They didn't knock, just entered. I do, they said. Charlotte turned pale. Riley walked to the desk and held up their phone. This is from rehearsal day. I was filming on my own, just goofing off. I caught it. They pulled up the video, Charlotte walking behind me. A slight nudge, the sudden lurch, and the look. Her smirk right after I hit the floor. You told me to delete it, Riley said. I didn't. Charlotte opened her mouth, closed it again. She looked at Davis, then at me, then down at her lap. Silence. And not the kind I'd grown used to, the suffocating, helpless kind. This was silence with teeth, the kind that bites back. Davis took a breath. Charlotte, you're suspended until we can complete a full review. I'll be contacting district-level services. She finally reacted. You're suspending me? She snapped. For what? A nudge? That's it. He looked. For lying, for intimidation, for obstruction, for violating student trust, and for trying to sabotage your sister's scholarship with forged documents, he added, holding up my file. Her mother had arrived at some point during the exchange. I hadn't heard her walk in, but there she was, standing in the doorway. She looked at Charlotte, then at me, and she didn't say a word to defend her. She just stood there, no sides taken, no damage control, just the raw weight of realizing she didn't know either of us as well as she thought. I didn't linger. I didn't want to gloat or win. I just turned and wheeled out of the office. The hallway was busier now, but I moved through it quiet. Nobody stopped me. I passed the main trophy case. I was whole, and this time I hadn't needed anyone's permission to be. Back at my locker, I reached for the dial, but paused. There, taped to the front, was a napkin, folded perfectly, shaped like a leaf. No name, no note. But I didn't need one. I smiled not because the pain was gone, but because someone had seen, and that alone, in that moment, was everything. The moment they asked, I didn't hesitate. There was no tremble in my answer, no shrinking before. I said yes, because the silence I used to hide behind no longer belonged to me. That morning, I arrived at school earlier than usual. The auditorium buzzed. This wasn't about approval or applause. This was about breath. Mine spoken aloud, no longer borrowed or stolen. Backstage, students were checking mics, running lines. I wasn't there as someone folding napkins or handing out programs. I was a featured speaker for once. No one tried to steer me out of the way. No one offered to help without asking. I took my spot, my rightful place. The stage crew guided me to the center podium, and I noticed it immediately. A single folded napkin resting on top. Not just any fold, a leaf like the ones I'd folded for Charlotte months ago, back when I still tried to earn kindness. Back when I believed if I just stayed soft enough, they wouldn't cut me. But this one wasn't crumpled or left behind. It stood perfect, intentional. I turned slightly to the side. Riley stood off stage, nodding once. The curtain pulled back. I waited before adjusting the mic. And then I spoke. My name is Emma. You've seen me. Some of you remember what happened. Some of you don't. I glanced around. The room was packed. Students, teachers, parents. But most of you remember the silence. I took a breath. They said I fell because I was weak, but I didn't fall. I was pushed. I was erased. I was cropped out. I was doubted, and when I spoke, I was told to whisper or stay quiet altogether. I looked toward the front row, where Principal Davis sat next to my mother. She didn't look away. She didn't nod either. She just listened. But strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it rolls. Sometimes it breaks before it bends. And sometimes it folds napkins no one will use. Sometimes it shows up anyway. My voice didn't rise. I didn't shout. You pushed me. But I didn't fall. I rose on wheels, on silence, on fire. And then I stopped for a moment. There was nothing. And then everything. Applause rose. But I didn't smile because I wasn't here for their clapping. I was here for the silence that finally listened. After the event, the hallway felt different. Students passed me with nods. One girl, someone I didn't know, touched my shoulder gently. I needed that, she said, voice cracking. I've been quiet too long. A few teachers approached. They saw me. Not the chair, me. Charlotte didn't show up. Not during, not after. I didn't ask where she was. That wasn't mine to carry anymore. On my way out, I passed the mural by the library, and there it was, Emma. And this time, that was enough, because I didn't need to be celebrated. I just needed to be counted, and I was. They called it a fall, but this was how I rose. Yet the applause didn't erase the ache. I had exposed her lies, but the scars of betrayal lingered, a reminder that truth triumphs, but wounds remain.